This week we're going to add and subtract algebraic expressions. Adding's pretty easy because you don't really have to worry too much about the order or anything like that. What you need to keep in mind here is we're not necessarily just keeping or collecting or combining, I should say, like terms. What we're doing is we're adding this expression, which is 7y plus 5. We're adding it to 3 minus y. And again, adding it doesn't matter that much, but when we subtract in a little bit, we're saying this whole thing minus this whole thing. We have to do something a little bit different when we subtract. Sometimes when you get these, you may not know whether or not it's an addition or subtraction. This one says add, this one says subtract, but how you tell is this sign right there, whether or not you're adding or subtracting. And that's going to tell you whether or not you're going to keep, change, and flip or not. And we'll discuss that now. When we add, in other words, if this sign is addition, we just combine like terms like we've been doing, like we did all last week. So right here I've got 7y, and again we go from left to right. All we're doing is adding and subtracting here, so we're going to go from left to right. We've got a 7y here. Well, ask yourselves, well, what can I combine that with? And the only thing I can combine it with is a negative y or minus y. So I'm going to have 7y minus 7, which is, and remember that if we have 7y minus 7, and we're subtracting it because of this minus sign, that's the same thing as 7 minus 1y, which is 6y. Okay? So now we're done with that, and we're done with that. And all we have left is plus 5 and plus 3. And we continue to do this like we've been doing, like we did all last week. We can't combine that 6y with anything, but we can combine these two for 8. And then we can rewrite that as 6y plus 8. Okay. Now, we do these almost exactly the same way, except when we subtract, we're basically adding the opposite. We need to, remember, we're subtracting this whole thing from this whole thing, or this whole thing from this whole thing, I should say. So it's basically this having been subtracted from that. Okay? So anytime we have a minus sign here between two expressions, okay, especially when the second one's in parentheses, what we have to do is keep, change, and flip, just like we did earlier this year when we were doing something silly like 7 minus 14. We kept that, we changed that to a plus, and made that the opposite of what it was. We made it the opposite, or we changed it. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to keep this expression, 5 plus 5q. We're going to change that sign to addition. Now that we're done with that, we're going to change everything in here to the opposite of what it was. So what is the opposite of 3q? Well, it's negative 3q. And what's the opposite of 9? Or negative 9 plus 9. And then we just combine like terms like normal. And again, we're adding here. So we're going to go from left to right. What can I combine my 5 with? Well, I need to combine my 5 with anything that doesn't have a variable, which is plus 9. So we have 5 plus 9, which is 14. All right, so I'm done with that guy, and I'm done with that guy, and we can mark it out. So I've left with 14. Then I've got 5q plus a negative 3q. We can combine those because they have the exact same variable. Now remember, the math that we do is with the coefficients here. So basically we're gonna say 5 plus a negative 3, and then whatever that answer is, and keep the q. So 5 plus a negative 3. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. So we got a positive 5q and a negative 3q. Those are different signs. We're going to say same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. That's going to leave us with 2. And by the way, this is the same thing as 5 minus 3. They're both the same thing. We've talked about that before. So my answer is, and this is, and we're going to take the sign of the farthest number from 0, which is 5q. So we're going to say plus 2q. And since we're adding here, it doesn't matter. We can change the order all we want to. Okay. Now, number 3, we have another subtraction one. And we know that, not necessarily just because it says subtract here, but because this sign is negative. So we're going to keep changing flip. 5r plus 3 plus a negative 1 minus 6r. And you can keep this whole thing in parentheses if you want to. Now that you have addition, you can, you have this plus sign here. You can treat this just like we did way up top here, the addition ones. Okay. So now I've got 5r plus 3 plus a negative 1 minus 6r. So we got to ask ourselves, what can I combine, go from left to right, what can I combine my 5r with? Well, we can combine that with a negative 6r. So we're going to say 5r minus 6r. Well, I've got a crazy looking thing here. And by the way, this is negative 1r or negative r. But if you forget that, remember we're dealing with the coefficients and we have 5 minus 6. We want to keep, change, and flip that. Now we're going to say same signs add and keep different signs subtract. Well, we have different signs here, so we're going to say 6 minus 5 equals 1. Take the sign of the farthest number, which is that, so it's going to be that equals negative 1r, or you can just say negative r. So we got the first part of our expression. We got that guy done, and we got that guy done. What we have left is a plus 3, and then a minus 1. That's what we're left with. Now, I can't combine the negative r or negative 1r with these two, but I can combine these two, and that's 2. So we're going to end up with negative 1r plus 2, or negative r plus 2. Either one of those will be acceptable. Probably next year they're probably going to require you to take that 1 off, because 1 times anything, or negative 1 times anything, is the negative of itself. Okay. This one's going to be add, again, because it says add here, but even if I didn't say that, if you didn't know that, we would add because we saw this. So we just combine like terms. What can I combine 5k with? I can't combine it with 4. I can't combine it with 6. I cannot combine it with negative 2m. So it's left alone. 5k. Done with that guy. What can I combine 4 with? I can add that to the 6. 4 plus 10. Done with that guy. Done with that guy. What am I left with? Negative 2m, negative 2m. And that is your answer. Again, we're going to subtract here. We got to keep changing flip because we don't like to subtract two expressions from another. We want to change that to addition, and subtracting is basically adding the opposite. So just like we did before, we're going to 4x plus 8 plus negative 3 minus 4y. Well, why is this negative 3 and negative 4y? Because it's the opposite. We had to change that. We had to keep, change that, and flip everything in here to the opposite of what it was. That 3 becomes a negative 3. That positive 4y becomes a negative 4y. And now, again, we just combine like terms. What can I combine 4x with? Well, we don't have any of the same variables in here, so we have to leave that alone. 4x. I'm done with that. What can I combine 8 with? I got 8 minus 3. 8 and a minus 3, which is 5, and that's a positive 5. I'm done with that guy. Done with that guy. And the only thing I have left is a 4y, and it's the last thing I've got, so I can't combine it with anything anyway. But even if it wasn't the last thing, I can't combine it because I don't have anything else with a y variable. So there's our answer. Now we have simplify. Okay. These are some of the ones we had from last week. What can I combine 4r with? Oops, looks like I got a typo here. This should be a plus This should be a plus. So let's rewrite this guy to make sure we can see it. 4r plus 9 plus r plus 2s minus 3. Let's just start from there. Okay. Well, what can I combine 4r with? I can add it to this positive or plus r. And that's the same thing as a plus 1r. So don't forget that. So 4r plus r equals 5r. So I'm done with that guy. I'm done with that guy. From left to right, what can I combine the positive 9 with? Not the 2s, but the minus 3. So now I've got 9 minus 3 equals a positive 6. So I'm going to say plus 6. I'm done with that guy. I'm done with that guy. All I'm left with is this positive 2s because I can't combine that with anything. So my answer is 5r plus 6 plus 2s. Now again, keep in mind I'm going really fast here, so if you find any significant mathematical mistakes, I'll give you 5 points on your quiz. And again, we're simplifying here. We're adding and subtracting, so I can just go straight from left to right. 2k. What can I combine that with? I can combine that with a minus 6k. So 2k minus 6k. I'm going to keep changing, flip that to 2k plus a negative 6k. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. So I got different signs here. I'm going to say 6 minus 2 equals 4. Take the sign of the farthest number, which is the 6 here. So I got negative 4k. And keep in mind, you're only doing the math on the coefficients here, 2 and 6. And you should know what the term coefficient is because we've gone over that in class. Negative 6k. So I'm done with that guy. I'm done with that guy. So all I'm left with is a negative m, negative 3m, and a positive 2m. So all you have to do now is add, say, negative 3m plus 2m. Well, I'm adding here, so I can use my song. Same signs, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. So we're going to subtract 3 minus 2 is 1. Take the sign of the farthest number, and don't forget the variable. So now I've got this left. So it's going to be negative 4k minus 1m, or you could simplify it and leave that 1 off there and say negative 4k minus m. Forgive my pen's running out. What will this combine with? It will go here and here. 4a plus 9a is going to be 13a plus 3a equals 16a. So I'm done with that. I can get rid of that guy. I can get rid of that guy. I can get rid of that guy. So now I'm left with a negative 13b and a negative 7b. So what I'm left with is minus 13b minus 7b. I can't combine the 16a with any of this because the variables are different. But I can combine the negative 13b and the negative 7b. So what do I have here? Basically, I've got 13b minus 7b. Well, I want to keep change and flip that, so I'm going to say negative 13b, change, and flip. Now I've got addition. Same signs, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. Well, these are the same signs. So I'm going to say 13 plus 7 is 20 for a negative 20b. So this is negative 20b. And I bring down my 16a, and that is the answer. 16a minus 20b. Well, now I have something really crazy here. The rectangle below has the size of each side labeled with an expression. What is the rectangle's perimeter? Well, this is a weird looking problem. Well, first of all, let me make sure you understand what perimeter is. Perimeter is the outside or the perimeter of something. For example, the perimeter of Atlanta is 285. It's the outside ring of it. And the perimeter as a measure, as a unit of measure, is basically all of the different sides added up. So, for example, if this rectangle had sides of, and I'll just put another one here, of 2, 4, 3, that wouldn't be a rectangle then, but and 4, let's just say. I would add that to that to that to that, and I'll get the perimeter. 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 3 is 13, and that would be my answer. Well, unfortunately, this is not so simple because I've got to add x plus 2 plus 2x plus 1 plus x plus 1, and that's an x, sorry, plus 3x minus 1. Just like I would do here, I would add all these up. I would say 4 plus 2 plus 4 plus 3 and add those up. Well, I do the same thing here, but I'm adding expressions. And then I can go back and do what I did on the first sheet. I just add those guys up. I combine like terms. I don't have to worry about subtraction here because all I'm doing is adding these up. So go through and ask yourselves, what can I combine here? I've got a x, 2x, an x again, and a 3x. I'm going to add all these guys up. X plus 2x is 3x, plus x is 4x, plus 3x is 7x. And how I got that, again, I added 1x or x, plus 2x, plus x, plus 3x. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7, for a total of 7x. So I'm done with that guy, done with that guy, done with that guy, done with that guy. So now what I'm left with, and I'm going to go ahead and write this guy out, plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 here, and then minus 1. And now I can just go from left to right after I do, of course I can't combine my 7x with anything. So now I say 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, minus 1 is 3. So my answer is 7x plus 3. Now we're getting to the word problems, and I know how much you love these. Mr. and Mrs. Smith share a savings account. There was D dollars in the savings account when Mr. Smith withdrew $45 from the account. Mrs. Smith deposited M dollars into the account. Then Mr. Smith deposited an additional $65 into the account. Write an expression to show how much money in dollars is in the account after the transactions. Alright, well, if you can pretend for a second that that was $10 or something like that, you would say, well, let's say it was $1,000. You would say $1,000 minus 45 because we withdrew 45. Well, you don't know what D is, so we have to say Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they had D dollars in the account. Mr. Smith withdrew 45, minus 45. Mrs. Smith deposited M dollars, so we're going to add M dollars back into the account. Then Mr. Smith deposited, remember that's addition, $65 into the account. Write an expression to show how much money in dollars is in the account after the transactions. Well, now that you've wrote the expression, that's the answer right here. I'm saying write an expression. Now, number 11, I'm telling you to simplify it. Well, D can't be combined with any of this. That's the same as 1D. You don't have any other D's here. So we're left alone with D. Now we have a negative 45 plus 65. So that's negative 45 plus 65. Same signs, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. We're going to say 65 minus 45 equals 20. Take the sign of the farthest number, which is 65, which is positive, so plus 20. Plus 20. So we're done with that guy, and we're done with that guy. All we're left with is plus M. More to come.